Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Maximize Your Monday. I am your vision coach, Latoya Early, and your leadership development trainer. It is my life's purpose to truly help develop coaches and leaders in their purpose so that they can increase their performance, generate profit, and truly be impactful to their teams. So, listen, I'm excited about today's Maximize Your Monday. You guys know how we do here on Maximize Your Monday. Make sure you are joining me over on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to our channel, the Coach My Life Network on YouTube, I encourage you to do so. We will very soon only broadcast from YouTube. So make sure you are subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you are commenting. We want to hear your feedback. If there's something that I share with you that truly connects to you, if there's something that you want to know, if you have a question, do not be afraid to use the comment section because I am here to share with you each and every Monday. I truly believe that if you learn how to maximize your Monday, you'll learn how to maximize your life. So today I want to talk about life is hard, but it doesn't have to be. Like I get life be life. And I made a post the other day about how life can be difficult. Life can be challenging, especially if you feel that you were cheated in your childhood. You feel you've been cheated in your young adulthood. Maybe you weren't provided the proper tools or the equipment that you felt would be necessary for you as an adult. It's so funny how I talk to some of my good friends and we talk about how we didn't learn some of the things that we wish we had have learned as children, whether or not it had been in the household or whether or not it was in the school system. But some things we just felt like we didn't learn. Some things we felt like we didn't get when we were children. And let's be honest. um in the way that we are raising our children today is nothing remotely close to how we were raised as children, right? There are certain conversations that we have with our children that we weren't privy to as children. We were huge in certain cultures. It was very huge for a child to stay in a child's place. But something that I was talking to a good friend of mine today, we were talking and I said, listen, if I don't teach them, the internet will. If I don't teach them, YouTube will. If my husband and I don't bring them the raw truth, somebody else will. And we want to make sure we are controlling what, as best as we can, controlling what our children are consuming, because what they consume is what they'll become, right? What we consume is what we become. Whether or not you want to agree, Latoya, I listen to the ratchet music. Latoya, I listen to the this and I watch the that, and it doesn't affect me. That's not so. It may not affect you in this moment, but keep in mind every seed will produce a harvest. Every seed. So whatever you're depositing in your thoughts, whatever you're depositing in your words, whatever you're depositing in your heart, it has to grow, right? It has to grow. And this really guides me into what I want to talk about today, about life being hard, but it really doesn't have to be. We're all experiencing what the world will seem to be an economic inflation, right? And we're all looking at our income, and we're looking at how the price of things have increased tremendously. We're looking at how our grocery bills are much lowered. Y'all, I'm gonna have to go back in the house. We're so used to looking at our grocery bill and seeing how much more our groceries are than what they were a year or two ago, or even the price of living. And we can all complain and say, oh, but the economy, oh, but the government. But something that I've decided, something that my husband and I have decided, we've decided to stop pointing blame to everything else and everyone else about the difficulties that we face in life, and start taking ownership. How can I make this better for me? It's not the government's job or responsibility to make my life better. It's not the cost of the groceries to make my life better. Now, don't get me wrong, it is absurd out here in these streets. I have 3 boys, so I definitely get it. But it's none of their responsibilities to make my life better. Guess whose responsibility it is? It's mine. It's yours. I'm sorry, y'all, for the background noise. I do apologize for that. But it's nobody's responsibility but ours. And if we continue to point blame and point fingers at everyone else, we'll never grow. You'll never rise above mediocrity. You'll never rise to a certain level of success if you constantly and consistently allow everyone else to determine or dictate your success because of the limitations that you're allowing them to place on your mindset and your capabilities. Right, we're talking about life is hard, but it doesn't have to be. Over the past several weeks, I've been using James 1 as a foundational scripture, and I'm going to go to it again because I want to extend the verse. But James 1:2 says, consider it nothing but joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you fall into various trials. Consider it nothing but joy. Right, so I want you to consider that we look at the situations and the challenges that we're faced with, and we say, woe is me. Oh, but why am I going through this? Remember, the very first one of the first lessons that we learned this month is find the success in your season. Right, count it all joy. Consider it nothing but joy when you're going through things. Hey, Robin, thank you so much for joining me. When you're going through certain things in your personal life, if you're going through certain things in your professional life, if you're going through certain things, we're to consider it nothing but joy. Why? When we fall into these various trials, because it's testing our faith, it's producing endurance. Yes, life can be hard, but it doesn't have to be. It can make you stronger, it can make you better, it can make you greater, it can make you think differently. Understand that what you see isn't and does not have to be what you get. You can change what you see so that you can change what you get, right? So we're talking about life being hard, and it really doesn't have to be if you do what's necessary and stop looking at what's hard and start identifying the things that are right. What's good? What's easy for you? Right? It says, be assured that testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. So while you're complaining about the things that are difficult for you in your life, why not look at those difficult moments and say, these difficult moments are assigned to me to make me greater, to make me stronger? Is it going to be uncomfortable? Most definitely. But continue to remind yourself that growth is uncomfortable. Right? Why? Because you're changing something. You're rearranging something. You're pulling something from its root. So it talks about producing endurance, right? Let endurance have its perfect result and do a thorough work so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking nothing. Life can't be hard if you're lacking nothing. I'll share with you guys one of my new favorite quotes is you can't be ungrateful and I'm sorry, you can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time. You can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time. Why? Because if I'm allowing my situations to build endurance in me, if I'm looking at my situation and saying, you know what, you're right, my bank account isn't where I want it to be. But what's something I can do so that it can get to where I need it to be? I'm not operating in the promotion, or I'm not fulfilling the job position that I truly desire. So what can I do to change that? My business isn't making enough money. So what can I do to change that? Most times we look at external situations and we embody it and try to make it our internal reason, but it's not. The reason you don't have the promotion has nothing to do with your boss. It has everything to do with you. And you can try to argue me and say, well, Latoya, they're not being fair. They're trying to blackball me. There's a glass ceiling. All of the excuses we give ourselves to justify why we won't endure the process, get stronger, and show up where we want to be so that we can become everything we're supposed to become. If you aren't where you want to be, it's because you've decided to settle for less. And I'm not just saying that to you. I'm saying it to myself. There are places that I want to be right now in my business. There are places that I want to be right now in my life, and it's taking me a little longer to get there because number one, I procrastinate, and understand that the root to procrastination is fear. So, Latoya, what are you afraid of? I had to sit down and I had to look at those. I had to look at that. Well, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with where I know where I'm supposed to go. And I just be like, you want me to do this and that? Right. So not only does your endurance have its perfect result in you, but it develops you lacking nothing. Life can't be hard if you're lacking nothing. Here's where my favorite part of this that I need you guys to write this on your heart. Verse 5 says, if any of you lack wisdom to guide you through the decisions, he is to ask of our God, who gives to everyone generously without rebuke or blame, and it will be given to him. What is this saying? You're saying, Latoya, I'm in this situation. You told me that life doesn't have to be hard. I have to figure out how to find my success in my season so that I can start to understand the lessons that are in my daily challenges so that I can become stronger in my faith so that I lack nothing. How do I do this? Ask God. Lord, I need wisdom on how do I handle this situation. Understand, we've been talking about when we talked about finding the success in your season. I shared with you guys the 4 different seasons. I encourage you to go back and check out that live, and I believe the name of it was "It's Not Your Season to Be Successful." I encourage you to go back and check that one out because I talked about the 4 different seasons. And so in this specific Maximize Your Monday, I want to focus on the season of identity. I'm sorry, impact. Last week we focused on identity. This week I'm focusing on impact. Why impact? Because we say how hard life is. Understand that how you respond to life will either impact your future or in a good way or impact your future in a bad way. It'll either impact your children in a good way or it'll impact your children in a bad way. It'll impact your colleagues in a good way or it'll impact your colleagues in a bad way. How you handle your life and the decisions of your life can either impact those to go and chase their greater, or it can really cause them to settle for mediocrity. And I can hear many of you saying this, Latoya, I don't want to be responsible for all of that. Like, that's not my job. But something that I've learned being in business, being a mom, being a wife, my life is not about me. And the moment that you embody that type of thinking, it changes how you show up for people. Now, let me be clear. That doesn't mean that you don't establish boundaries. That doesn't mean that you don't establish standards. I was having a conversation with my husband and I was just, talking to him, and I was telling him how I was never taught really how to establish a standard for my life. Like, I'm not going to allow anything less than this impact me. And I did because I didn't have a standard. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to place those parameters in my life. But being at the age that I am and being able to grow and develop in the areas that God has matured me in, I've decided that I'm going to have a standard. And with that standard is a level of impact. And because I've established the standard, how I impact my children, how I impact my marriage, how I impact my clients, how I impact the people that I'm connected to, it has to be according to that standard or greater. And in order for me to establish that level of standard, I had to change how I saw life. I had to change how I saw personal obstacles. I had to change how I saw professional obstacles, because we can all blame someone else for our lack of. But if you don't take the moment to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do I need to do for me? Forget what they did to me. Forget what they're not doing for me. Forget how they've made me feel. What do I need to do so that um I can better navigate through this thing called life. Life is hard, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Thank you, Robin, for joining me. Right? It doesn't have to be. What do you need to do? You need to, number one, check the way you think about things. Your mindset is the compass of your direction. If you are allowing negative thoughts, if you are allowing challenging thoughts to take control of your daily thinking, then you'll constantly find yourself stuck, right? You want to identify the things that you feel are hard. Maybe you're saying, Latoya, pennies, bills, I'm not making enough money, right? That's hard. Well, I want to say this to you, because going after that type of challenge is not as challenging as you think. Number one, we need to look at what you're spending, your cost of living. Let's look at that. Let's look at what you're spending money on, right? Number two, let's look at where you work. Let's see if there are other ways that we can generate income. Again, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't. Will it require more work of you? Probably. Will it take a little bit more from you? Maybe. But it doesn't have to be difficult, right? Identifying the things that you feel are hard. And once you've identified them, let's now address and convert the gaps. How do I address the gaps? Well, once we've identified, Latoya, these are the things that I feel are making my life hard. Okay, true, cool. Let's take that list and let's look at that list of things and let's identify and address each and every one of those areas and figure out, how can I convert this gap? How can I close this gap? How can I, instead of looking at this as it being hard, but looking at this as a lesson, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What do I need to get from this so that I can become a better version of me? Remember, our focus for this month is finding the success in your season, whether good or bad, whether the season is good or whether the season is bad. Find the success. Remember, right? Remember, our life is, it's not as much as, and it's so funny. I have a good, he's a mentor, he's also a relative. And make sure you guys check out Inspire God's People, the podcast. He did his podcast show on good versus God. And I wanted to, that was actually supposed to be today's title, good versus God. And what I wanted to talk about in that is how we think, well, it's good, right? But just because it's good doesn't mean it's God, right? Just because something feels good doesn't mean that it's God. And many of us are not, you think that life is about what, how you want and what makes you feel good. I hear so many people say, you know what, I don't care if it affects anybody else, I'm gonna do what makes me happy. That's not how God intended for us to use the gifts and the talents that we have. It's not to only benefit you, it's to benefit the people that he's called you to impact. Understand that Jesus didn't die for himself, he died for us. God didn't send his son for himself, he sent his son for us. A lot of times you'll hear people say find balance. I don't believe There's a certain I don't believe in such thing. And the reason why I believe that you should find time for the things that will cause growth and development in your life. However, whatever that time looks like, it could be 20% of this, and it could be 80% of this. It could be 20% of this, it could be 15% of this, 10% of this. The reason why you need to sit down and prioritize what's important to you versus finding balance is because everything is not equal. I'm not going to give Chase Great or the Coach My Life Network the same amount of time that I would give spending and operating in prayer or being in prayers or in my word or even with my husband. Why? Because it's not equal. Now, what I will do is show up and give all in that time that's assigned to it. And I think that some of us are so busy trying to be balanced and trying to sound like and look like what social media is telling us an easy life or what they're calling a soft life looks like, that we're not taking the time to figure out what works for me. What works for you? Are you getting up in the morning and spending 5 to 10 minutes in your prayer closet? Do you take a quick 30 minutes to work out in a day? Are you spending time on developing yourself? Because every single day you should be spending time to develop self so that self can serve the people that are assigned to you. How do I empower and impact the lives of the people around me in a positive way? Because you can impact them in a negative way too. If you walking around talking about how hard life is, and you're struggling with how you are a lot facing the challenges, and you're mean to people and you're disgruntled to people, and you just have this nasty disposition about yourself. It's so funny. We can go to a fast food restaurant, and the person, that's taking our order can just sound just so uninterested and just so irritated about being there. And my son was like, why do they like, go find another job? And I know y'all like, but Latoya, it's not that easy. Okay, and it may not be. But if you can't just go find another job, then show up and act like you are grateful for the one that you have. Because how you respond to this is how you're going to produce whatever's next. So if you have a negative response to it, if you have an angry disposition, if you have a distasteful disposition, if you're always negative and you always find something wrong with something, you need to take some time and step back and look at self, because you're making life hard. Not only are you impacting yourself, but you're impacting the people around you. James 1, 2 through 5. Go read it for yourself. Break it down. Count it all joy. Consider it nothing but joy. When you're going through the trials and the tribulations of life, count it all joy. Why? Because it's developing you. It's pruning you. It's redesigning you. It's preparing you for whatever it is that you are going to have to face next, whatever it is that you're going to go through next. Understand that endurance of your faith, endurance of that season strengthens your faith. And without that level of strength, without that level of endurance, you'll find it more and more difficult to face the challenges and the obstacles that are to come. We're none of us are exempt from obstacles in life. But either I can look at this as a lesson, or I can look at this and I can stay broken. I can be in a place of pity. I can be in a place of defeat. Or I can look at this and say, what can I get from this? How can I grow? If you are in some sort of leadership position, I challenge you. I challenge you on today. Understand your personal success has everything to do with your professional goals. If you have a difficult time communicating, if you have a difficult time addressing situations in your life, if you have a difficult time addressing people in your life, but yet you want to be this high level leader. You want to reach this certain promotion or certain level in your career. You want to grow your business to reach a certain amount of income, and you're struggling in your personal life. You're now in a place where you're trying to figure out, why can't I be professionally successful? It's because you're personally broken. And I'm saying this because I'm recognizing that so many people want success. And remember, we defined what success was. We defined that success is operating in the fullness of the purpose that God has called you and assigned you to. What is your life's why? Success is operating in that why. And most people, a lot of people struggle with reaching their professional success, their personal success, because they're not willing, or they're unwilling to self assess and realize that it's not the people. Stop saying that you're not where you're supposed to be because of the people. It's nobody else's fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's not your employer's fault. It's not your landlord's fault. It's not your doctor's fault. Like, why do we find comfort in blaming other people for our lack of, when it's us that controls it? It is. God has given us free will. He's giving us every tool that we need to become everything that He created us to become. But we struggle because we want to point blame and say what somebody else isn't doing. But what aren't you doing for yourself? What words are you feeding yourself every day? What are you telling yourself you're capable of and that you're not capable of? What are you telling yourself? How, we confess, I had to stop saying life is hard. Life do be lifing, but it don't have to be hard. If I learn how to pivot and adjust, and recognize that in those moments that I need to pivot and adjust, it's a learning moment. It's a time to grow. It's a time to learn. It's a time to change. So I want you to ask yourself today, what are some things that I need to do in my life? We talked about identifying the things. If you need to write a list, what are the things that you feel are hard? How can we correct those gaps? Let's sit down and create a plan. How can you sit down and you say, you know what? These are the things that make life hard for me. Let's tackle every line item so that you can realize that you have complete and total control of your results, of your outcome. If you want to, um, if you want to grow in your professional career, let's grow. If you want to grow your business, let's grow. If you want to be a better mom, let's do it. If you want to be a better dad or a better wife, let's do it. If you want to be a better sister, let's do it. But you have to be willing to check self before you can go out and be in the lives of other people. What I learned about my business is, in order for me to be as successful as I know God has designed me to be in my business, I had to take a moment and look at who I am as a mom. I had to take a moment and look at who I am as a wife, who I am as a daughter. How do I respond to people? How do I respond to situations? What boundaries have I set in place? What standards have I set in place? How have I created um, I don't want to say a protection barrier, and knowing when to allow people, in, when to keep a certain distance. Like, all of these things are life lessons that I had to learn. And I didn't know that it had everything to do with how successful I will be in business. The Coach My Life Network is designed to help you focus on specific areas in your life that need adjustment so that you can win in the other areas of your life. Do me a favor, visit the link in the caption to learn more about the Coach My Life Network. I am your coach, Latoya Early, and I am here every Monday to provide tips and strategies to help you transform how you think. If you change the way you see things, if you, let me, this is my own quote that I'm messing up. If you change the way you view things, it'll change your point of view. Life can be hard, but if you change how you see it, if you change how you say it, and if you change how you do it, it doesn't have to be. Have an amazing day today. Chase great and be blessed. See you guys in our next video.